Hey girl, I just saw you were back. Welcome home. How were your flights?
Thanks. Yeah, that's a really exciting story. Let me tell you about that. Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, my name is Carolyn. I am a mama to twin baby girls named Summer and Winter, and my family loves to travel. And recently we just took a trip all the way from the US to Germany as a family of four, and it was a very last minute trip. We booked our tickets 4 days before takeoff. I know it sounds a little crazy, but it was because we actually had some things going on with some family out there and we needed to go out there to support them through some stuff. So with that said, our flight out there was relatively smooth except for the part of getting on the airplane. And if you watched my flight video, you might have seen this, but I'll just summarize it real quick. Some of the issues that happened getting out there. First thing was we parked, and it turns out that the long-term parking was actually not open, and I think this is just due to the current circumstances in the world. Less people are traveling, so they don't need as many parking lots. So if you're traveling, keep that in mind, that the long-term parking might not actually be open. So instead, we parked in an economy lot that was still something that we could do long-term, but it was just more expensive. So we were there and we waited for the shuttle to arrive, and the shuttle never came. So we ended up having to walk for about 15 minutes to get to the airport from there with our babies, and that was very frustrating. So the next thing that happens is that we go to check in for our flight, and note that we had taken our PCR tests beforehand, and the requirement to get into Germany is to take your test within 48 hours of landing in Germany, like actually entering the country. And because it has to be a PCR test, sometimes those tests take up to 72 hours to actually get the results for, right? And we had to have the results before we could actually get onto the airplane. So we go to check in and our results hadn't arrived yet, and they said, okay, well, you can't check in yet. We'll put you on standby and you can get through security, but you're gonna need to take a test here at the airport in order to get on the airplane. And we're like, oh no, okay, yeah. So we had to go take a test, and we go to the place where they told us to go with our babies and everything, and they tell us, okay, what type of test do you want? We have 3 different ones. And we're like, we need the one that's the fast one. That's what the flight team told us. And they said, well, we have 2 different ones that you can get within an hour. Which one do you want? And we're like, oh my gosh, I don't know which one they require. So my husband stayed with the girls at the actual testing center, and I had to go to a totally different terminal, take a train, and go to the gate to ask the team what type of actual test do we need. And the lady at the check-in desk actually didn't know. She was like, you just need the fast one. And I was like, well, they have 2. And she was like, well, I don't know. I was like, seriously? And then there was actually another customer that ended up telling me that she got the rapid test, and I was like, okay, so that's the one that we can get. Good. So I called my husband, told him that was the one, and then ran back over, took another train, get back over to that terminal. We took our tests, and then we had to physically wait there to get our results. At least one of us had to. So I waited there to get our physical results, and then my husband took the girls over to the gate so that he wouldn't have to run with them. So meanwhile, he's over there, I'm waiting for the test, and then as soon as I got them, I ran back to the gate. So it was a lot of back and forth. It was very frustrating, and I got a lot of exercise. Bottom line, we were negative 2 times, so we ended up actually getting our PCR test additionally while we were on the airplane, and we were able to get that by email once we arrived at our destination. So we ended up having 2 tests for both of us, which is the funniest thing, because ironically, of course we did have to show it to get on the airplane, but once we got there, the customs didn't even ask us to show them our results, and we're like, are you serious? Just very interesting. So that was the process of going out there. The flights honestly were pretty smooth all the way. We had a 10-hour flight, a 2-hour layover, and then another 1-hour flight. And I will say all of it really did go pretty well. And I've got that all in a video with tons of flight tips if you're flying with a baby, and you can check that out in the link below. I'll also link it here if you want to watch. With that said, I'm going to tell you now about our flight coming back, because it was very different, night and day in so many ways. And the ways that it was better is that in Germany, you're able to take your test immediately for free, very easily. We didn't have to wait in line anywhere. We literally just walked right up to one of their testing centers, got our test taken, got results immediately, and then we're able to use those for flying back. Additionally, to fly back to the US, you're required to take your test within 72 hours before flying, which is much more manageable than 48 hours within landing and having to show it before getting on the airplane. So we got our test, that was nice and smooth, and then we got onto the airplane. Now Now, our issues began there. So the first flight was only 1 hour, but with that said, our daughters were tired. We'd actually had to take a 1 hour shuttle to get to the airport, and they didn't like that. They were, they wanted to play it the first thing in the morning. We had to get them up actually earlier than their normal time that they get up. So we ate really quick. We had a quick breakfast. We made sure that at least they had like something in their stomach before, getting on the road and stuff. But then we get into the actual shuttle and they were just not having it. So they ended up being fussy like most of the way to the airport, which was already kind of a not great way to start the trip. But you know what? It's fine. It's all good. We got there safely. So we unpack the bags, we check in, everything's good. We go through security, all is good. And then we board the airplane. And by the time that we board the airplane, it is already way past their morning nap time. And they have both stayed wide awake this whole time, but you can tell that they're tired. So I thought for sure that they would nap on the airplane. They did not. They did not nap on the airplane. And one of them was totally chill. Summer, she was chill. Winter was not chill. I was holding her. And the thing is, because she was a little fussy, I let her have her milk before takeoff. And anybody who is curious, this is a big no-no. Because what happened was, because she had her milk before takeoff, she didn't get to do that sucking motion during takeoff because I tried to give her more and she didn't want anything more. I was like, great. Now she's not hungry. She didn't want to drink water, right? So she wasn't going to do anything, which meant that it didn't give her the opportunity to suck something to help her ears pop. This is a huge recommendation I have for anybody who's flying with a baby. Definitely do some type of sucking during takeoff, whether it's breastfeeding or a bottle or pacifier or anything like that to help their ears pop. But she didn't want to. So then her ears were bothering her. At least that's what I think it was, because nothing else that I did would help her. I mean, I was trying to play with her. I was trying to point out different stuff. I was trying to talk to her and, give her different snacks and change her diaper, like all the things. I did all the things and she was just not having it. So she literally cried like the whole way. I know the problem is that she was tired and she just didn't want to go to sleep. And I felt so sad. I mean, like I said, at least it was only a 1 hour flight, but I felt so bad for the people sitting around us. And the thing to keep in mind here, again, if you're flying with a baby, is that it's okay. Like if your baby is crying and, just not having it, like don't worry. It's not the end of the world. As long as you're safe and you know that your baby is actually like, okay, everything's fine. The people around you know that you're trying and people get it. I mean, I felt bad, but at the same time, like I could tell that they knew I was having a harder time than they were, right? Because I'm like holding her and trying to like make it better. And it's like, she's screaming in my face. I mean, she wasn't screaming most of the time. She was just crying most of the time. It was more like, sad cry because she's tired, but I felt bad, like I said, I felt really bad if it was her ears that were popping. But I think the other thing is she was just really tired. So ironically, literally as we touched the ground at our first location, she fell asleep. I was like, really? Seriously? So I let her nap for about 10 minutes while we let everybody else get off the airplane. And then by the time that everyone was off, like I woke her up, we were the last people off the airplane. And then she was awake and she was like calm and it was okay. But then we had our 2 hour layover and that was relatively smooth. So that was good. After that, we get on our next flight. This is a 10-hour flight. So at least the girls were able to get more energy out. And during our layover, they actually also took a little bit of a power nap. They both napped a little bit, whether it was in our arms or on our little luggage suitcases, which I'll show you. It was just so cute. They actually looked pretty comfortable. I mean, if they were able to fall asleep there, they definitely must have been pretty tired, but they were both totally chill. And so that was really nice. And then we just hung out and they looked at airplanes and walked around. We practiced walking quite a bit actually during the layover. They've been learning to walk and they're getting really good at it. It's very exciting. You're doing great. Yeah. Good job. With that said, we get on to the next flight, which is our big long haul flight, and a couple things happened. One is we had our bassinet seats this time, which was definitely a plus. We didn't have bassinet seats on the way out there, but we learned that the girls no longer fit in the bassinet seats, which is kind of a bummer, but at least we had the extra leg room, so they were able to like kind of stand in front of us and play around. So even if you book a flight with a baby who doesn't fit in the bassinet seats, if you can reserve that area, you'll at least have more space for them to play or stand up in front of you if they want to walk around, because they're really not supposed to walk in the aisle, even though during our flight out there we let them kind of stand in the aisle temporarily as long as there was nobody there trying to walk down the aisle. So yeah, that was the first thing that we were kind of like bummed about, that they were too tall for the bassinet seats, versus when they were flying last time they were 9 months old and they fit just fine and they napped in the bassinet seats and it was beautiful. This time they were 14 months old and it was just not gonna work. With that said, we actually ended up separating because there was a lot more space in the back of the airplane. So I stayed with Winter and set up a little bit of an area for her to sleep next to me. She didn't want to sleep next to me, so she ended up sleeping on me, and I just literally held her like sleeping for like a couple of hours. Meanwhile, my husband took Summer to a different part of the plane where there was a lot more space available and was able to make like a little makeshift bed for her with a couple of seats with a bunch of pillows and things. And that's one thing that is definitely nice about flying during this time, is that you have a bigger chance of having a less busy flight. Now, this is not going to occur all the time because, like I said, that shorter flight that we had, the 1 hour flight, was actually very busy and mostly full, but the long haul flight was very empty. So that was really nice that we were able to find a little bit more space for them to actually nap on the seats and make them nice and comfortable for a few hours. Meanwhile, just, I was holding my little Winter and I was just thinking, okay, like, I'm cold, I can't reach my sweater, but it's worth it because my baby is napping. Hey, you gotta pick your battles, right? So we land, and that's when the next issues began. So we get to our location, we fly into the actual US, we are about to go through customs. That's when we start to do the paperwork and things on getting into the country. Now, they are actually encouraging people to do this app called Mobile Passport to fill out all of their paperwork, just to encourage touchless. But with that said, it only works for US citizens or Canadian citizens. So my husband, being a German citizen, wasn't able to use that. So even though we filled it out, we had to fill out all this other stuff again so that he could get in. So it was like a waste, honestly, if you're flying with somebody who's not a US citizen, because then you have to fill things out 2 different times. So anyway, yeah, just something to know. But we ended up filling out all the information, and then we go through the customs, and then we went and got our bags, and we were able to get them nice and quick. I was very happy that our bags came immediately, and we got our stroller from the oversized area, all of that was very smooth. And then we're literally about to walk out of the airport with, or leave the customs area. And you just have to turn in your final paperwork that shows that the customs guard signed off on it. And that's when they ask us one more time. They're like, hey, just want to double check, that everybody doesn't have any vegetables or, all the things that they ask, right? Meats and whatever. I think alcohol is whatever. I don't know. They ask a bunch of different questions, right? So just double checking, does anybody have anything? And my husband is like, oh, I just remembered we had snack carrot sticks in the backpack for the flight and we didn't finish them. And I'm like, oh no. So then we had to wait in this huge line to get into this security area where we then have to go put all of our bags, not just his backpack, even though the carrots are in his backpack. We had to put all of our baggage through the security conveyor belt, where then after it went through the conveyor belt, they proceeded to open up our luggage and take a lot of our stuff out and look at all of our stuff and sort through our clothes. And it's just not fun, especially after you've been on a really long flight and you've been holding crying babies since the dawn of the day, and you're 8 hours ahead of your time zone. It was 2 a.m. for us at that time, and I was like, you're seriously gonna sort through my underwear right now? This is great. So after that fun event, we were able to then take all of our things. Once we were out of customs, the only other thing to do now was to go get the car and then leave the airport. And we were so ready to get out of there. So we thought, okay, because of the situation though that happened when we arrived at the airport where we parked and then the shuttle never came to pick us up, we were a little hesitant to get onto a shuttle again or like try to wait for a shuttle to take us back to the car. We didn't know how long that was going to take. So instead we thought, okay, my husband will go get the car and I will wait here with the girls and all of our bags. And, you know, we had two large pieces of luggage. One was the stroller and one was a big bag. And then we had two carry-ons with our girls sitting on them and I had my backpack. So we were waiting at passenger pickup, but little did we know, we realized this soon after, that the passenger pickup situation had actually been changed recently because they're doing construction within the airport. And they now only do taxi pickup at the location we were at. And they have to actually go through a certain gate to get in. So my husband actually couldn't get through once he got the car and he needed to go to a different level. He literally couldn't get to where we were. And I just didn't have enough hands to move all of our stuff and our girls to another level. So our options were he could either park in the garage and then walk over to us and then help us move everything to the car and walk back through the garage and pay for more parking, or I could just find somebody and like beg them to help me move our bags. And I was very thankful that I was able to find somebody who was just working in that area to kind of like, I think he was one of those people that makes sure that the cars don't stay too long in the passenger pickup or something. He had a vest on and he looked kind of official. So I was like, is there any chance that I could ask you to help me move our stuff to the next level? Because I just realized that my husband can't pick us up because we're at the wrong passenger pickup because everything's changing and like, I don't have enough hands. And he was like, I get it. I'll totally help you out. Like, yeah, I'm happy to. I was like, thank you so much. So he took both the two big bags and then I took the two carry-ons with my daughters and was able to move everything up to the next level. And then we were able to meet my husband there. Now, of course, as my husband pulls up, it is pouring rain outside and I'm like, great. So that was just another bonus on top of that whole process is we have to get in the car and put the girls in the car in the pouring rain. But once we were all in the car, oh, it was all better. But I tell you, it took us like 3 hours from the time that we landed to the time that we got home. Granted, we had about like a 45-minute drive home. It was just so frustrating. I mean, it should never take that long. And so the things that we learned, moral of the story here, is if you have any type of foods in your luggage or in your carry-on, let's say that you had it as a snack on the airplane, make sure you toss it before you get to customs or eat it before you get off the airplane. I mean, all those things, just like don't have it with you, like be done with it. And the second thing is that we learned is make sure that you are aware of construction if it's happening at your airport and double check the parking situation and double check the passenger pickup situation to make sure that you're in the right place. The only other advice I could have is, it'd be great if moms had 4 hands. If anybody else agrees, give me a shout out in the comments below. If I could have 4 hands, I think so many of my problems would be solved. Anyways, you guys, those were all of our big flight issues. I feel like overall, the trip wasn't too bad. Like we got there safely, we got home safely, and that's really all that matters. But yes, we definitely learned a lot of things along the way. And we're just very thankful that we are back and safe and healthy and well. And if anybody else has any questions, feel free to let me know in the comments below. I'm happy to share more tips about our flying experience and how we travel with babies. I will definitely link many of my other videos on that topic below if anybody is curious. Thank you so much for watching, and I look forward to seeing you in my next video. And don't forget to subscribe and like this video. It absolutely would support my channel and I would so appreciate it. Thanks guys. I'll see you next time. Have a great day. Bye.